Cyberpunk 2077 is a massive video game set in the year of 2077, and for a sci-fi inclined maker like me, it is full of stunning and inspiring designs. In fact, I already built some stuff from Cyberpunk, like my motorized mantis blades of this character called Sandayu Oda. So Oda is what you call a cyber ninja, and his design is so iconic, they actually ended up using him in a Run the Jewels music video, and I just think that's so cool. After I finished building Oda's mantis blades and I saw how much you guys love them, I realized that I wanted to finish the rest of his outfit as well. But as you see, there's something missing. Some might say even the most recognizable part of his outfit, the helmet. And I want it. The design phase began with a bunch of research. I even reached out to CD Projekt Red themselves, and they were gracious enough to provide me with some high-resolution reference material, so that set me off to a good start. Even though the helmet is static in-game, or at least we don't see how it operates, I want to make mine animatronic, because one, it's gonna make it so much more comfy to wear, because you'll be able to get some fresh air all the time, and two, most importantly, it's gonna make it so much more eye-catching. Now the faceplate. That's the crown jewel of this project. It has this glowing demon face ornament. It's definitely not a sticker or a stencil or something. It has this depth to it, kind of like a hologram or a projection or something. Unfortunately, I am fresh out of holograms, but I think I do have an idea how to simulate this effect. So to make this ornament look like it's three-dimensional and is bending the light as such, I had to make it three-dimensional. So what I did was I modeled the inside of the faceplate to contain thousands of little bodies that have a particular shape to them that will hopefully help refract and scatter the light in a particular way, kind of like looking through a glass of water. That will hopefully recreate this shimmery hologrammy effect that I'm after. With this amount of detail and the fact that it needs to be see-through, my only option is to resin print. I have a bit of resin, I have a 3D printer, so let's see what happens. Okay, so it's failed. Kinda sucks, but what can you do? Also, I think I will dye the resin red, so I would not rely on red LEDs for the color. That way it will look better in bright lights like this. It was at this point that I should have taken it as a sign and quit while I still could. Now, before you call me a quitter, I need to point out that I in fact did not quit, despite every attempt taking between 24 to 30 hours to print, depending on settings, and I made a lot of attempts. How many? Well, this much. To be honest, I'm not even sure how many bottles of resin I've used so far. One full visor with top and bottom parts takes about 1 liter of resin per attempt, so this was a very expensive test of patience. I tried all the tricks, all the calibration and settings and everything, but there was just something about the shape itself of the big piece that it would just fail in one way or another, and never twice at the same spot. I've been at it for quite a few weeks now, and I had various levels of unsuccess. So I think now it's time for me to zoom out a little bit and regroup. I still think that resin printing is the way to go, but I feel like the problem partly stems from the fact that each batch of resin is manually mixed by me that I'm trying to eyeball. So I think my next step is to develop a repeatable recipe for the resin that I can calibrate against and produce hopefully more consistent results across batches. Yeah, still a lot of work ahead of me. Okay, it's about 2 in the morning and I'm waiting for the hopefully final print to be done. I don't see any defects. Is this the one? Is this the one? My hands were shaking when I was removing the supports. I was just repeating to myself, do not mess it up, do not use force, just be patient, take it easy. So before the resin cures fully, it is still slightly malleable, and that is a problem because the visor is thin and large, so it is easy to bend it. If it solidifies bent, it will not align with other parts, leaving gaps. I anticipated that and I printed out these very stiff shapes that I clamped the soft visor into and onto. First I cure the inside, then flip it around and cure the outside. This is my best chance to make it dimensionally accurate. While I was losing my sanity with the resin prints, at least the conventional 3D printing went really well. I did end up making a few iterations, and I think I'm gonna go with this one over here. This one has ventilation holes, so it's going to be nice and comfy to wear. And it also has ear channels that are built into the design of the helmet, so nothing is changed on the outside, but there are some sneaky channels running straight to my ears, so I could actually hear proper when I have it on. Very nice. It has a hard time aligning back together, and I think it's just because everything is handmade. So I think what I need to do now is to print a different version of this with a bit of a taller lip, so there would be a bit of a guiding surface for the top part to sort of slide onto the bottom part and make a seamless fit. I also changed up the way the faceplate is being lifted. I like the idea of it being done in two distinct actions. That kind of makes it look a bit more mechanical, and I really dig that effect. It felt so satisfying to finally have it on. But before I move on to the next phase, I am using a few drops of resin to fill out the tiny imperfections of the surface of the visor. I will be polishing it later, so it can't have any layer shifts. The helmet glows red everywhere except the white logo on the forehead. So I need to fill in this cavity here with something else than red resin. I printed out a bunch of these logo inserts in different resin mixes, and I think I'm gonna go with the most opaque looking one just because I need the extra light scattering that the milky resin will provide. So I'm gonna sand this down and try to fit it in place and glue it. Once the logo was in, I coated it with resin and I let it seep in into the joint before curing it in place. I'm putting down multiple very heavy coats because those parts cannot have any light leak out. And then I carefully sand down the paint on the parts of the visor that do need to be transparent. Slowly I worked my way through every little pixel, and after that the front needed to be sanded to perfection too, but you kinda know how that goes. After hours and hours of sanding, I moved on to the polishing machine. See, the thing is with resins, they're not as heat sensitive like plastics, so if you're not too rough with them, you can actually get a pretty decent shine on them. After everything, it's quite nerve-wracking, but you can't argue with the results. I let the clear coat cure and degas overnight and put some LEDs underneath so you could see how transparent now it is. But yeah, it turned out just beautifully. I'm kind of speechless, to be honest. It turned out way better than I expected. I imagined it, but I didn't think that I could actually make it happen like that. It looked so good and I wanted to try it out so bad that I rushed it, and in hindsight I should have probably taken my time. So that just happened. I guess what happened is that the finished one got a little bit too thin to properly friction lock into place into the jaw part. You see the non-sanded one is just fine, but the other one now is in pieces because it was a bit too thin. Yeah, this part. I don't want to talk about it. With the motors working reliably, time to make it shine. As it comes to lighting, there's going to be two main channels. The white channel for the logo, and then the red channel for everything else. To connect LEDs, I use these Teflon-coated microwires. They're so incredibly thin that they can power only a few segments at a time, so that meant that I needed to split up everything into 10 groups, making the wiring 10 times as complicated. But they fit between the tiny ornaments, so that's the only way to avoid casting a shadow. I think it looks really good, especially in a brightish room like this. Before I light up the jaw though, I need to finish the painting just because the way it's put together, so might as well finish everything else too. More sanding, cleaning, filling, and painting. To match the mantis blades as well as the shoulder armor, I airbrush a slight metallic coat. It makes the gloss black look like it's gunmetal or graphite. As you saw earlier, the jaw part snaps into place with magnets. The same magnets provide power delivery, a bit of a two birds, one stone situation. There are cavities running down along my jawline from the back of my head to these magnet pairs, one for positive, one for negative. When everything clicks into place, we should get light. Okay, so if everything is wired up correctly, we should see some lights. Now it's time to finalize the circuit board. I spent a few days figuring out how to control the helmet wirelessly and change the software a bit. The idea was that I would have fewer wires running down my sleeve, but once I finished I realized that the motors were being affected by it sometimes. I hope you can hear the audio, but trust me, they should not do that. It's both a combination of software and hardware, and essentially what it means that the wireless functionality is a no-go. It wasn't a must-have feature, but still, it's kind of sad that it didn't work out. The next few steps were actually smooth for a change. I finished up the electronics and I added a few finishing touches that no one will ever see or care about. I even cross-referenced a bunch of pictures and tracked down the exact design used in the game files for the stickers. The quality was too low, so sadly I had to remake it in Photoshop, just so I could say I did it. I can't believe that after all these months, it's finally time to wear it. With the visor down, it looks literally like a render from the game, and I couldn't be more proud. Oh yeah, and I also built these much larger mantis blades that have the controls for the helmet built in, and together, especially in such a dark room, they just look so great. It's just a pity that the camera doesn't do it justice. I still need to get used to controlling both the helmet and the new blades. It's kinda like learning to play a new instrument. The fit of the helmet is a bit snug, and as you can see in some of the shots, the neck cover has slid out from underneath it, and that's just because there's not much space for it. I think a more fitted motorcycle helmet style mask would work better. By now I've worn it to a few conventions already, and it was quite the eye catcher. Of course it's not the helmet by itself only, but I was still really excited to show it off. To travel with it safely, I built this beast of an enclosure for it. Essentially, this is 1 centimeter thick plastic all around the helmet, and it's nice and stiff, and it worked perfectly well until it didn't. On my way home, the airline actually managed to shake it so hard that the visor split down the middle, and I can't even begin to describe how I felt when I opened the enclosure and found it like this. With a lot of careful work, I managed to fix it, but still, the entire situation was so sad. I made a video on the repair process on Patreon where you can find more exclusive content. So a massive thank you for all your support and your viewership. I'm really happy that you guys are on board with my big, slow builds instead of making me chase the algorithm with daily clickbait uploads or whatever. I think we're onto something good here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.